So welcome, Kenneth.
Thanks.
Welcome to Nothing Conversation.
Mm-hmm.
You've been here, right? In Nothing.
I've been in Nothing.
Yeah. In Nothing FM, I mean.
Oh, in Nothing FM, okay.
Yeah.
I spoke with Emerson last week.
Yeah,
it was last week, last Friday, yeah. So, and then we did something back a few months ago as well. So, yeah.
Yeah, wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay, how should I start? Maybe a month or two ago, I don't know, I don't remember quite well, but I watched a documentary, 0 and 1, it is called, and I saw you there. And then I searched on the internet, I found some YouTube videos, and then I also subscribed on one of your Zoom meetings. I've never heard about this so-called radical non-duality. I know that some call it like this, but the message resonates a lot.
Oh, does it? Okay.
So yeah, really. So let me ask you, how is your memory?
How's my memory?
Yeah. Can we go back in your memory for a while? Just for a while.
Oh, of course, yeah, whatever, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so let's say here is Kenneth, who is trying to see that Kenneth is not there. Is it something like this, or similar, or nothing at all?
If we go back to when Kenneth felt like Kenneth, is that it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's not really describable, like it was a it wasn't a typical spiritual search or anything, but there's nobody that feels separate that's not looking or yearning for not being separate. So there's nobody that's not searching. There's nobody that's not contemplating being separate, really, but they might not use words like that we're using here, or that we're familiar, that people would be familiar with. So everybody, once they feel like a contracted, separate self to the world around them, is somehow cogitating or contemplating that in one form or another. The sense, I can't really describe it very well. It was just a sense of the sense of maybe self-consciousness and all of that started to get kind of more amped up, maybe into my late teens and 20s, and something was seen that there was something quite strange about that wasn't quite right. Yeah, so like a lot of people, just something not quite, like the character Kenneth used to often think about what was missing from childhood, and that sense of freedom I had as a child, and what happened to that. Why did it go? Like, why wasn't it there anymore? What could I do to get it back? That kind of stuff. So yeah, so that was it really. Yeah, just the character and whatever appeared to happen. Yeah, no crazy story like going to India or nothing too dramatic.
You could say unordinary something.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Yeah, just whatever. Yeah. But actually there was quite a few, looking back on it now, there was quite a few glimpses, or however you want to put them, and some of them were, I just didn't know at the time, couldn't put them into anything conceptually or understand them in any way. And one was when I was walking down a busy street in my hometown, and I was probably 17 or so, or 18, and the thought arose that, what if there's nobody in there? I remember the thought very clearly. There's what if there's nobody inside the other people that I'm seeing? And suddenly there was boom, there was just this woof, and it was like, it was indescribable. And then there was kind of, then there was people again after a while, as there normally was. And I always just thought of it as a really strange experience, like really strange, couldn't really figure it out. But it was always kind of in the back of my head. And then now looking back on that, that was very much okay, it was something, that was just a thought, but energetically it was a whole woof. Yeah. A few other things like that. And then I'm trying to think of, there was one or two other ones. I can't remember them right now. I'll probably think of them later. But then a friend said, you like this meditation thing that's happening down in Kerry. So, and because she's such a good friend, and we just had a really lovely friendship and a lot of trust, and she knew me quite well, and I didn't actually think about what I was signing up to. So I just signed up. There was a place. And funny enough, I don't think I even did a Google search on, it was Vipassana. I didn't even do a Google search, or if I did do a Google search, it lasted all of about 5 or 10 minutes, and that was it. Like, so I had no idea other than, this would be a bit of an adventure. Sounds good. I'll do it. And then that's kind of how it apparently unfolded. Then it was doing that. Apparently doing that, and whatever arose in about a kind of 48-hour period. A lot of pain actually, and but then it was just looking across at hills. So there was just the usual stuff of walking meditation, sitting meditation, blah blah, and then it was just looking at the hills, and then suddenly there was just the hills, and it was just, everything was just as it was, as it always is, and everything was obviously new. But it was always what had always been there. That's what was really funny about it. It was like it had never been anything else but this. It was just aliveness. And it was incredible. It was stunning. And I bent over and tied my lace, and I realized it was the first time I tied my lace ever, because everything was new. So that sense of kind of repetition to things was gone. It's indescribable, like, but that kind of is a flavor of it. And then in that was, it was very obvious that what was seen was always what was always there. So there was never, you were never not there. Nobody was ever not there. And it wasn't a there, it wasn't a, it was just the immediacy of it. So it couldn't be approached. So although Kenneth continued to meditate, it was very clear, well, why am I meditating if everything else is it? Like, there's no thing, walking down the street is it, talking is it, watching TV. How can I, where am I trying to get to with the meditation? So it didn't really sit, it was very kind of, it was just struck me as strange. And then that's when the character Kenneth was launched into this whole spiritual world of people, spiritual groups and all these teachers online, because I was probably a year after YouTube just exploded and got really popular. So you could just look up everybody on YouTube. It was amazing. So I just delved into that and reading books and seeing people online and everything. And then, the meditation just started kind of weakening, because there was nothing there. And I met a lot of people who meditated, and there was this kind of, some of them, not all of them, but some of them had this arrogance, this kind of lovely arrogance. And it was like, oh, you're meditating. Oh, that's so nice for you. And how long have you been meditating? Oh, isn't that endearing and lovely for you? Yeah. Come back to me in 10 years.
It sounds familiar, because I also meditate a little.
Yeah. And so that was it really. And then that's the story, which I don't really tell very often. You've got me going on it straight away.
Yeah, I just
because I think I was asked that on a week ago, so what happened? And I said nothing happened. And the person said, what happened? And then and is that it? And I said, yeah, that's it. Because that is my stock answer really, is that nothing happened. And that's why it's unusual that I didn't even say that at the beginning of this, because people hear a narrative and really what they're looking for is what happened to you, so that they can make the same thing happen to them. That's really the question.
Yeah.
What happened to you? I want to know what happened to you and the steps of what happened to you so I can apply it to me. And the really crucial thing from this perspective to convey is that nothing happened and nothing happens. And when there is liberation, and there is nothing but liberation, when there's a parent falling away, then what appears to go beforehand is completely irrelevant, which the person can't. That totally flips out the person, because they're like, they live in cause and effect. The person is cause and effect. It's one thing leading to another. So how do you mean that the meditation didn't cause this? And it happened despite that, because Kenneth would have thought he was doing something. So that wouldn't have. But clearly, to sum it up, I suppose, what really was seen was it was a loss. So really in that was a loss of a contracted sense of Kenneth that wasn't brought about by Kenneth doing anything. Because that's impossible. Because if you feel you're there to bring it about, then you're just on this complete loop of you being there. And it's a non-happening, because you're actually not there to begin with. But invariably, that sense of being a person kind of comes back, and that's what happened here. It nearly always seems to be that there's this woof, and then this sense of being a person kind of can come back, but it's never the same again. And then the question was like, what was that? Like, what? It's so undeniable. Like, it's so beyond any experience you've had. It's just incredible. It's not an idea or a concept. It really is a very intense kind of, oh my God, what was that? But like, what is it? I have to taste that again, or I have to know what it is, or integrate it, or whatever. And then there was the moment of seeing The Open Secret on YouTube, and then boom, that was it. Then it was the first person I heard who echoed of that experience. But it's not an experience, and it really was very clear that it was a loss, not a gain. So everything just kind of fell into place then, and that was it, really. That was that's the story of the non-story. And in this case, like, I obviously have no problem talking about the meditation, because I always make it clear that it was despite meditation or anything like that. You can't meditate your way to not being there, because you will just be there trying to meditate your way to not being there. So it's nothing to do with any of that. Right? So usually that's why I understand if these things happen around a spiritual context, then for the person, they put it in that framework that was an awakening or satori, and it was brought about by all this spiritual kind of spiritual endeavor that I cultivated over many years. And it's just, all of that is a complete story. It's just totally just a story that feeds the me. That's all it does, really. Yeah. So in that, the kind of passion to talk was born at the same time.
Asking you this, it was my next question, actually.
It was quite surprising, actually, because Kenneth, the character doesn't like groups. The character would think, actually, at the time, probably Kenneth's worst nightmare would be standing in front of a big group and giving a lecture. Yeah. Oh my God, I would run a mile from that. Really, no interest at all in that. Would not have enjoyed that. But when there was a first hearing of the Open Secret, and I went to Dublin and I saw Tony, and I heard, went to an Open Secret meeting. And it was just the resonance was just astounding. And it was unconditional love, actually. There's this gentleman from England standing there, and it was pure unconditional love. And it was by seeing me as not being a person, but seeing only boundless energy. And at those the Open Secret communication, that's when it was first seen that it was anybody could say anything. It was just this, there was no structure to it. There was no structure of let's do this and let's do that, and in the afternoon we'll do this. And I'd been quite used to that, because I'd done a college degree, and I'd done third level, and I'd done several courses. So I was used to all of that kind of format of a course, how you be presented and presented material and all of that sort of stuff. So then seeing it was just astounding. It was just astounding that there was no agenda, there was no start point, there was no end point, and it was just, as questions bubbled up, they bubbled up, and they obviously bubbled up here, and comments bubbled up, and in that was kind of born that love of that way of communicating, and it was obvious that it was nobody's message. That was clear from the very beginning, and that there was no Tony, there was no teacher, there's no anything. And then, so that's really where it all just, boom, it was kind of there. And that's probably 2008, I'd say, maybe around then. And then I was doing photography. I was doing a lot of photography, a good deal of photography, and I had a photography website. And on the blog, it quickly kind of changed into, oh my God, this is it. Or there's only energy, there's no individual. Like, and it was not, I could not rein that in at all. There was no thought into that. It just poured into that blog. And that's kind of where it kicked off. Then my friend Frank kind of passed it on to somebody. I wouldn't have known Frank at the time, but then we've since became very good friends. But that's how it snowballed kind of from there. And yeah, so that's it really. That's the story.
That's the beauty.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's as much of an amazement with the communication as when I first described to you there in that time of boom, it's the same now. It's just astounding communication that has nothing to do with Kenneth whatsoever. It's completely unknowable. And that's the energy, the quality it has. Then it doesn't come from somebody who knows. And then that can be, you can sense that it's a different thing.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And most people don't like that. Then still most people don't like that. Still people find it extremely confronting, really, I would say. Yeah.
Yeah, you can sense the freshness. It's like the words are, so the message is the same, but the words are always fresh and new.
Yeah, because I've never said it. Like someone asked me that there a week or two ago, said, do you never get bored by asking? Someone was asking a similar type question, and every week they're asking a similar question. And do you never get bored by asking? And I said, well, they've never asked that question before, and I've never answered it before, you see, because everything's always new. So like this character here could talk about this communication could go from 8 o'clock in the morning till 8 o'clock in the evening without any sense of. It's amazing because you see the difference is I'm not in there doing it. If I felt I was in there doing it, I'd be exhausted and I'd feel like I was working then, you know. Yeah, it's not describable. It's nothing at all. It is what it is too, you know. It's just heard as it's heard. So it's rubbish to some people and others it just resonates, and it's amazing.
Yeah, that's exactly, this is exactly the feeling here.
Yeah.
A deep resonance.
Yeah. A resonance. Lovely. Yeah. Now, I remember you came on a meeting a few weeks ago, didn't you?
Yeah. I remember something very funny from this meeting. Someone asked you how is it possible that you know which exactly is your house?
Oh yeah.
I was laughing.
Yeah, that's all. Yeah,
it's something. So you recognize your house, your family.
Yeah, it's incredible because they actually think that if you're not there, as in there's just life kind of thing, and then for the person you have to be there for anything to function. Like there's no possible way you can tell me you can go in, a job can happen, kids can be attended to, a house all of this. You're telling me that if you're not there, that's still going to happen. That's impossible. It's amazing. That's a very common reaction. That like if that's it just exemplifies how the person is so egocentric that they're the complete center of everything, and everything is filtered through them. So it's completely incomprehensible that anything would function or anything even in the world would happen without me. because that's the person, is everything is funneling through that sense of me, and that things are happening, really things are just happening in the world in relation to me. And that's the big joke then, is that you've never actually been there. It's not that you're going to fall away, it's that you're never even there to start with. Yeah.
This reminds me of an exercise which I was compelled to do.
Yeah.
A simple exercise, to divide a sheet on two and to write for about 10 minutes the thoughts that are arising.
Mm-hmm.
So write all the thoughts that are about a self, about you, no matter I'm hungry, I need to take a shower or anything.
Mm-hmm.
And on the other hand, write which are not related to the self.
Yeah.
And can you guess what happened?
I think one sheet was more full than the other.
No, the related thoughts about the self were 98, 99%.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also this one or two that seemingly for something other,
Yeah.
they are also related to me.
Yeah. No,
I
I'm
was
not
like,
surprised.
it is mind blowing, really. Everything is about me.
Everything's about me. Everything is
Yeah.
about me. The whole everything. I mean, sometimes what we see then is people who have, I think my feeling would be people who are classified as having personality disorders. I don't know if you're familiar
Yeah,
with this, but they fall
a
into,
little. Yeah.
yeah, they're people who, it's hard to diagnose them under mental health services, and mental health services don't know how to treat them. CBT seems to work a bit better with them, but essentially it just feels like amplified me, really. That's what it is. And that's why the services don't know what to do with it. And it's just everything. It's just that every apparent person has it too. And this is just on a whole other level. And when you meet them, it's car crash stuff, it's just car crash, everything. It's just drama. But then drama just amplified by,
Yeah.
it's crazy. Yeah. But yeah, that's the gig we're all at. I mean, that's the only show in town, really. In more or less, that's the only show in town, is that you're a person and you're an individual, and you have choice, you have free will and choice, you have a life. That's the first thing that occurred to me when all of this, because I hadn't read anything, or it was just Jesus. There's just life. Like there's just this. I don't have a life. And that's something I'd always that was the other thing I was going to say. Yeah, that's something I'd always kind of wondered about, was how do I have a life? Like where do I have it? How can you have a life? Do you know what I mean? And I just thought these were just kind of nonsensical kind of thoughts that used to go around, because I couldn't kind of anchor them into any kind of outside authority or outside kind of, the closest I would have come was maybe Carl Jung and collective consciousness and that kind of stuff. I that really kind of resonated with me, the collective consciousnness and the sense we're all one.
Yeah.
And it was when I actually started reading Carl Jung, I just kind of started getting very disinterested very quickly, because it was all of the idea of it principally had an energy to it as well. But yeah, that's the kind of rambling a bit there, but that's the story, is that you are a person, and it doesn't go it's unquestioned. It's unquestioned to think that, are you really a person? But there's been a bit of a shift. I definitely feel there's been a bit of a shift in the last few years, especially, and there's more and more, a lot of the kind of central tenets of being a person are now under scrutiny and aren't holding up very well. Like free will is, for a long time now, has been shown to be artificial, mainly from the experiments in Germany going back quite a while now. And I see them referenced all over the place now. Random magazines, I've been seeing it crop up all over the place, and now loads of people kind of taking them and saying that, well, intellectual people like Sam Harris is a good example, and he wrote that lovely book as well. But I mean, they're clearly missing the point, in the sense that there's someone still there who's speaking to somebody else. And so in summary, it's kind of, well, you're not there as a separate person, and here's what you can do with that. This is how you this is how you can make your life freer with that, or whatever. So they quickly go to speak to someone. They're always speaking to someone. But apart from that, like even that's quite edgy. Like even the ones I've seen, I can't remember. There's an American lady who's written a book now about there being no you in there, whatever, something like this. And even that one, like it's presented as something absolutely radical, and you brace yourself for this now and all of this, and it's presented like that, and I'm laughing hearing it, going, it's still so safe because she's still talking to somebody. It's got a different energy to it.
But maybe somebody who can have a better life with this.
Yeah, essentially, yeah. Someone who can, like, this is what you can do with that information, that you've no free will, or how you can make your life better, or, whatever. But yeah, so that's like this as a really clear, uncompromising message. It's still quite confronting and radical, because people might have dipped their toes in various stuff about that, but when the energy to this, it can still be very confronting, because really it's not even that intellectually they're being challenged, it's that energetically that sense of being a me is very confronted by when they enter a meeting or something. It can energetically be very confronting, because they sense there's nowhere to go with this, and often that they back up and get out of there as quick as they can, because there's a real sense that you could die at it.
Yeah, there is such a fear.
Yeah, such a fear. But it's I mean, it's different obviously for everyone then. Some there's more of an openness to, and then it just resonates.
Yeah, I would like to ask something about this. So basically, a free will and choice and control, they apply someone to decide, to choose, who has a free will. So apparently they're just concepts, but do we have a choice? I don't know how to put the question. Is there any choice to notice?
No choice at any level, any level, so at all, anywhere.
It happens.
There's only choice when there feels like there's a person. It's a direct. It directly comes out of feeling like a separate person.
So
it's not even that the cruel thing is not even that there's no, because people every week they say to me, so you're saying there's nothing I can do, or there's nothing I can't do, and I said, no, that's not what I just said. Listen to me. I'm saying there's no you to do, and there's no you to not do.
Yeah, but apparently doing can happen. So basically,
it's just what's appearing to happen. Yeah, there's nothing to do with me at all. Lifting the hand up, that and like the if I felt like a person, I would have lifted my hand up and I just scratched my head, where it's very clear that there's just lifting the hand up and there's just scratching the head, and that you get added to it, like up to a couple of split seconds after.
Always late for the party.
Yeah.
So the character Kenneth, so he this impulse appeared to share. Is anything else change it, or do you notice something to change?
No, not really. There's an echo there off me, is there?
No, it's okay. I'm just hearing you.
Okay. Okay, I thought there was an echo. No, I mean, it's not that something changes, every story is different. So something could appear to change in that person's story of their life. Like everything could just totally collapse. Like it could be the end of a marriage, it could be the end of a job. It could be. I don't know. I have absolutely no idea, but it doesn't matter. Like not a whole lot in the story really changed. It was just Kenneth was more Kenneth. Kenneth was Kennething again. So the lot of that sense of all of that sense of unworthiness and all of that just fell away, and there is just what appears to happen. That's all you can say about it, really. It's not describable. it's completely not describable, like, and then there's, it doesn't really matter how Kenneth is appearing to be, or that's the only significant thing that changed was the communication out of nothing. Nothing is nothing to do with Kenneth, never had been. There's no sense it ever was anything. It's like Kenneth, the character is amazed by anything as anyone listening, or there's just literally, like, they just start to talk and whatever, it just comes out of nothing. Yeah. And then everything in the story of Kenneth is just appears as it appears, and it's just that it is a story. Whereas before, when you feel like a person, it's a reality that is, you're there and it's happening to you and everything is real. Like the person is living in real. That's what they're living in, because there's something and they're seeing something else. That there's a subject that sees an object and they're living in that dynamic of subject to object. Everything is real and no thing cannot be seen. That's why, in a way, in a very real way, people feel that there's life, that they have a life, and there's this thing called death that they're afraid of. It's this other thing called death. And that's what they're really talking about, is no thing. And death is actually their own absence. So you can't see no thing. And there is no death. Because it's all this. It's all, this is everything, and this is no thing. And this is life, and this is death. It's one. It's about as close as I can go. These words are very inadequate, but as a person, you feel there's two things. There's the dualism, there's life and there's death. Because ultimately it's coming down to that you are that dualism of there's me and there's life. So that's the split. And once that is no longer, and there's only then whatever appears to be happening, which is all there ever has been. And it's very clear for nobody that all that preceded it was all just a complete story. So that's essentially that what you're looking for is nothing other than what's appearing to be, which is the divine comedy of the whole thing, is that you're always looking for something, and what you're looking for is nothing other than already what is and isn't. And that can be quite a shock, it's like, oh my God, it's always just been this. And that's really what's shared. Like, it's just that it's very simple suggestion. It's very ordinary, it's very simple, and it's just shared and energetically like that. It can just be seen, it's just this. But it's shared without agenda, so because it doesn't recognize other separate people, because there are no other people, separate people. So there's nowhere to get to. And so if somebody says, well, this is a load of nonsense, and they go that way, then that's energy, unconditional love. That's what's appeared to happen. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
yeah, and it's resonance, really. It's like that's the word that's used a lot by a lot of the people who are speaking clearly. I think one word they all have in common is a resonance, an energetic kind of resonance, because it points to, it's really beyond words. It's nothing to do with understanding. It really, really isn't. It's so immediately just this. Not even this it's not a very good way to describe it as this, but the immediacy of it is such that it's completely unknowable and it can't be known at all. So any sense of intellectually kind of getting something or understanding something is totally irrelevant, which is quite a novel thing for the person, because everything is to do with understanding. Everything. It's like any kind of group, anything someone gets involved in it's all to do with understanding, and it's what am I going to get out of this, and it's all of that.
Yeah, what are the advantages, or what is the value?
Yeah, what's this for me? What's in this for me is essentially. Yeah. So it's a different, certainly different. than the usual stuff, you know.
A lot.
Yeah, a lot different, yeah.
A lot different, yeah. So one could say that maybe in the story, maybe there is an integration or a deepening. Could be or not.
I wouldn't say an integration. There's nobody to integrate anything. Some people have used the word deepening and are a little bit hesitant about it because it's just all wild and free and unknowable and meaningless, and in a way the whole thing kind of settles down and can become more obvious, like more and more just obvious that it's just there's just energy. I think that's what some people mean by deepening, but I'm a little bit weary of that because for me that kind of implies that it's a deepening for somebody or something like that.
Yeah, the language could be
it's totally not describable. Like it's just, but it's not describable because it's difficult or complex, or it's not describable because it's so ordinary. It's just so ordinary and obvious and just everything. It's just everything that appears to be happening, and then that everything is obviously nothing. But nobody has been able to describe it. Like nobody would be able to, you know, you're not going to get any people on Nothing FM that are going to be able to write you a lovely, eloquent email and say, "Oh my God, it was great. This is it. And I realized, and let me tell you now," you know, because I mean, it's just not describable. Yeah.
So maybe that's the beauty in this. You cannot describe.
Yeah. It's just.
And if it I don't know, if there is a resonance, so there is a resonance. If there isn't, there isn't.
Oh, absolutely.
No one can do anything.
No, and everything is already whole and complete. Obviously, it's wholeness. So I used to have meetings, especially maybe 10 years ago, with a huge amount of anger. Like, I mean, an enormous, I kind of missed them in a way. Not that I miss anything.
Yeah.
Not that but you know what I mean? I mean, literally like thought I was going to get assaulted a couple of times, maybe.
Wow.
Well, I mean, you're not quite, but like edging towards that direction, that level of anger going at you, which is that you still get that a bit, and you get a lot of passive aggressive kind of anger, but I mean, yeah, it's just, that's unconditional love. Like someone sitting there either on a Zoom call or calling in or when they used to be meeting in person and saying this is utter bullshit, like this is utter bullshit. I really don't know what I'm doing here or why I came. I think you're full of shit. Is complete unconditional love. Because it's just energy, and it's beautiful, it's stunning. It's like, okay, it's bullshit then. Because how would there be an agenda when there's nobody being seen? There is no separate person there. They are already nothing and everything. So if that's what's happening, that's what's happening. Like that's the difference between other communications then that would, because they're speaking to someone, they want to convince them of something, or they want them to think it's not bullshit. Because there's somewhere to get to then. There's somewhere else to get to then. So that's what makes it different. It's just whatever arises, And of course, liberation, like we're speaking about liberation, if you want to call that, if you want to use that word, and there's nothing but liberation already. That all there is, and the other way of saying it is there's no such thing as liberation, and then we're all going to die physically die. So on the physical death of the body is boom, it's the release from that sense of separation. So if that sense of being a separate person, so if that appears to happen in the body before the physical death, then that's what appears to happen. If it's all the way to the person's last breath, that there's a torment with feeling like a separate person, and a deep yearning for wholeness, then that's what's happening. That's the way it is. It can't be any other way. Like it's not, this isn't shared in a way that has any agenda for there not to be separation, or any, it's not shared in a way that feels that it can have any impact on any sense of separation. I think that's a big mistake. People, not a mistake, but people think that I somehow am trying to get people who are calling in not to feel separate. But how could that be the case then? It would be, there's nothing that can be said. There's nothing that can be said that can affect that that really felt feeling of feeling separate. It's an embodied sense that there's a world out there and I'm in here. I'm behind the eyes, or I'm definitely bound by this skin, and I'm in this body. It's an app. It's not a concept, or it's just it's a really lived feeling of feeling separate. And all the while there's a yearning for wholeness. There's a yearning for no thing out of this sense of being something.
Yeah. That's why we feel so good when we have had a deep sleep.
Yeah, it is exactly, that is exactly it. Because there's no room for you in a deep sleep. And then you come back then after, like, so that's that. Sleep is that
something very
healing kind of healing restorative thing for the body, because there's a tension in feeling separate. That's a neurotic, contracted tension, kind of, that's there all the time. But it's there and it's not there, you see, as well, you know, because people frequently are just they're in what they're doing, in the sense of they're doing whatever they're doing, driving a car, walking, and then they actually don't recognize that they're not there. And suddenly they're like, oh, where did I go to? I just drove the car for 5 minutes. That was so dangerous. I was gone. So, you know, you weren't gone anywhere, but the sense of you coming back is there. The sense of you being is that's quite, it's so all the time that's happening too. But it's almost like, you could say it's almost like an awakening all the time. But for some reason, energetically, there's no kind of recognition of it until there's a kind of a boom awakening where it's just not. It doesn't come back to the fixed sense of the way it was before. You know, it doesn't come back. Like, I think it was, I don't know who described it as a dark room. It could have been Tony Parsons or maybe someone else. It was a lovely description. I thought it's like a person is like a completely pitch dark room, and awakening is like a window opening and a light floods in. Then the window closes, but that room is never pitch dark again. It's been changed forever, and it's never quite the same. And then that's the person then back wanting that experience. And what was it that happened?
Yeah.
And of course, nothing happened. That was the
thing. I had a very interesting experience. 3-4 weeks ago. I don't know how to put this in English. I lose consciousness. How is it in English? I just, like, how does it say in English?
Well, you didn't say it in Russian. You said it in English, so I don't know. You lose consciousness.
I lose consciousness. Yeah. Just.
You lost consciousness.
For a minute or so.
Yeah.
And it was the best time ever.
Yeah.
Like when my husband pulled me up, because he was like, wake up, and I was like, oh, and I felt all the the heaviness of the body, all the I don't like it. It was complete, I don't know, maybe love, and also nothing.
So nothing, but the thing is, what happens then is you turn it into an experience for you. And it's like, that's but it's so ordinary too. This is it too. This is it.
Yeah, and I was like, oh my God, probably this is also death. And it's nothing to scare about. It's so normal. It's like
this is death. This is death now. There is no death in that sense. This is
Mm.
Like this speaking, sitting on a chair, whatever has appeared to happen, because it's everything and nothing. Not everything and nothing. It's everything being nothing and nothing being everything. So it's life and death, and death and life is all this. This is it. The thing about experiences like that, though, is that the person kind of thinks about them and thinks that this big explosive experience was it. And now this feeling I have here where I'm kind of annoyed about something or I'm frustrated, that's not it. And in actuality, the frustration is it, or everything is it. And then see, that's the liberation then, is the like, oh my God, it's just this, like, isn't it? It's just whatever.
Like, everything is constantly screaming. That was like
hello, it's me, it's this. And that's that liberation for the person is liberation, freedom from uncomfortable things and painful things, because they want freedom from them and they want to pull in all the pleasurable things. That's the mind's idea of freedom. And absolute freedom, which is all there is already, and liberation is the painful thing. And then it doesn't matter what arises then. It is frustration, it is confusion, it is pain. And then it's totally, it's indescribable then, because there's nobody there then collecting it, filtering it, trying to do anything with it. And it's got this quality that can't be described. It's not even arising and falling away again like it is for the person. It's just there and not there. And there's no issue with anything. And the person thinks that sometimes as if, that sounds as if it's softened. It's not softened, it's fucking painful. It's full on pain, but it's just there. It's just seeing that nothing can be any different than it is. So,
So the play is just a play for the character. Whatever is in, everything is in this play.
Yeah, the play is that you feel it's your life and all that. But your play, but the story is completely whole as it is. And it just is, it doesn't matter what's happening but for the person, the quality of the story is terribly important. And it has to be, because everything's through me. What's happening in the story is so important. And it has to be this way or that way, or it's all connected to me. And the big shock is what's looked for has nothing to do with you, because of course it doesn't have anything to do with the story at all, because it doesn't matter if you're this way or that way or what way you are in the story. It's that it's a story. That's the difference. And then it's just
So there is a joy in the story, or I don't know. I feel joy right now.
Yeah, but that's what's happening then, joy.
But
it doesn't matter what the story is like. It's just there's joy happening. You could stub your toe in 5 minutes and there'd be pain. You stand up and walk to the bathroom and you stub your toe off the cupboard and there's just enormous pain, and then that's it. It's everything. There's nothing that isn't it.
I don't know what to ask more. Yeah, maybe something about I don't know how much. We have a little more time. Can you talk about cause and effect? A little.
To be said about it, really. Other than that, it's artificial. I mean, the person feels it's real, so the person lives in the real, as I was saying, and it's because they are the real. They are the subject object reality, because there's me and then there's everything else out there to which I relate, and in that reality there's time and space. And so therefore I am acting because I have volition, and things are acting, I am acting on the world, and the world is acting on me. And that cause and effect is out of that sense of separation, that in that time, that linear movement of time, I've done this and then this made this happen. So it's that sense that there's something happening, then that's something else happening, then something else happening, and something else happening. And then that's a lived reality for the me. It's that sense that there's a now or a present, and there's a future that I'm moving into, and there's a past that's behind me. And it's all a story. It's all just a story. So there's no, like, cause and effect feels so real for the person, because it's just absolutely real. It's, this happened because this happened because this happened. Just as in the same way that time feels absolutely real for the person. It's whatever time it is, and there's such a thing called time. And it's all artificial. It's all out of that sense of, you could say it's real and unreal. I often say it's real and unreal because there's nothing really the mind can do with it being real and unreal. The problem with saying it's real and unreal is the person only hears you saying it's real. You say, oh, it's real then. No, but it's real in the sense it's nearly 10 o'clock and we're talking about it nearly being 10 o'clock, but there's no independent thing called 10 o'clock, So all of those things are features of the me, of the person. Cause and effect, choice, time, space, all of these kind of core things that we take for, responsibility, meaning is a massive feature of this whole sense of being separate. Everything has meaning, everything. And then the person tortures themselves to a lesser or greater degree with finding meaning in things, and all of these things go completely unquestioned generally and are accepted as absolute realities in life. Like this, to the general, if this was to go out to the general population, it's just seen as he's talking utter nonsense. This is complete and utter rubbish, like, because these things are absolutely totally real. But then when that sense of me, like I think what a lot of people think is they want to know about cause and effect, they want to know about time, they want to know about this, because they feel like there's some sort of access point so that they will crack them things and then they'll be there, then there'll be liberation. But it's not like that. I mean, what it is that it's all about that root sense of separation, that there's a you and there's a world out there. And when that sense of separation is no longer, it's very clear that all of those things like cause and effect and time and everything are just a story. That's all, really. So it always comes back to the suggestion that there's only what appears to be happening, and there's no you there that it's happening to. And the words don't really matter, because it's not about the words. If the words were really important, it would then be that it would be understandable and knowable what's being suggested. Then the words would be very important, because if it's knowable, then it's all about the language and so on and so forth. The language is kind of in that it tries to maybe not feed any confusion. That's an aspect of it. And make it maybe as clear as possible, but it's always done in the sense that the words are the words, and it's really an energetic resonance with what's said, and then that can just be seen. Then it's just seen. There's just this. It's just this.
And it is instant. Yeah. Maybe this word is
it may appear everything is immediate and everything, so it's always instant. Yeah. It's always instant, even though in the story it could appear to happen that there's an awakening and then there's someone yearning for it, and then a year later there's liberation, or 10 years later there's liberation, or 30 years later there's liberation, and there's 30 years of feeling like me. But then it's seen then by nobody that there was no 30 years, there was no 10 years, there was no 1 year. So everything is immediate, because this is always new. That's one of the amazing aspects of this, is that everything is always new. This is never going to be like this. Like the way you're smiling there on the screen and we're speaking now, and the way that the computer is, and the way that, you know, certain things appear in the room, and the way the light is, you would never, it's not, you can't recreate things. But the person feels as though everything is recreated and repeated all the time. You know, oh, it's Monday again, and I'm going in here again, and this is the same, and he'll be there, and now this is what's going to happen, and that's what the person does. It kind of narrates not only what's happening, but what's going to happen, and that's very common in the meetings. People will tell you, well, I still feel like a person, and I'm not, you know, I'm just not going to get this, or maybe next week or next month. It's always, it has to, like, is this always, when, well, okay, so you've decided, so the person decides, so you've decided that it won't be seen there that there's only liberation. Okay, fair enough, then that's what's, I mean, what can you say to that? But that's what the person does, very typical. So, and like an aspect of it is what we've just done in the last hour is kind of illuminate the artificial nature of the person. And it can, as there's a conversation back and forth like that, out of nothing, it can become very obvious that this really solid thing called a me is not so solid at all, and in actuality isn't even there. So intellectually someone can kind of grasp that or understand that, but that's not a goal of what's being communicated, because it doesn't actually matter. That doesn't matter, because it really is that energetic resonance of, you know, because all you have is someone understanding they're not there doesn't make any difference. Or knowing, there's people who know, there's people who intellectually know and explain it better than I can that they're not there, and they can refer to all, you know, they've got all the language, they can refer to all the tenets of Buddhism and different religious kind of things and spirituality, and they've got all it, they all have it all off, but they're still there. You can say, I can sense that, you can still sense they're there. You know?
Yeah, I know such a people. Yeah, you can sense.
And there's nothing wrong with that. That's just what's appearing to happen. Yeah.
Oh, Kenneth.
Yeah, it's lovely. It's lovely sharing.
Yeah.
For nobody.
Yeah. Just beyond words, yeah.
Yeah.
When you said that, when you turn around that you can't find these ears or this, one could say, path of the seeker or so. Yeah, it's absolutely the same. Where is this? Months, years? Meditation?
Yeah. It's all a story. Yeah, it doesn't matter. None of it has any meaning or significance whatsoever. It's just there is just what it appears to happen. And then you see, when that sense of separation goes, for nobody, it's seen, you see, that nobody is separate. So someone who reports that they're separate and they're demented with, you know, meditating and flagellating themselves or whatever they're doing to, you know, that's just unconditional love. That's just energy. That's just fair enough. Then stick with that. There's just a sharing out of nothing of this, and it's heard as it's heard. And if that takes itself to be separate, because then that's okay. Yeah.
Okay.
There you go.
Okay.
So we managed to apparently fill an hour, Luchana, and you were wondering how this is. It's funny because a lot of people who talk to me say, well, what are we going to do? How does this work? I get that nearly every week, you know. How does this work? And I say, I don't know. You tell me how it works. You tell me how it works. Well, what do you mean? Like, where do we start? And I say, I don't know. Where do you think we start? What, like, have you got? Is there a question? And they say, well, I suppose. And then you're talking. It's so free and lovely compared to the usual kind of, right, we'll start here and we'll go through here and we'll get here.
Yeah, some people also want to receive some questions in advance, you know, just to see how
Yeah, I know, it's hilarious.
Yeah,
Oh,
nonsense.
this way of communicating is still quite rare. Like, and when it's heard, people start to see quite quickly. Okay,
Mm.
there's all these people, and then there's these kind of few people, however many. I don't really put a number on it, but there's
Mm.
not too many. There's not
Yeah,
too many
true,
where it's just like woof.
true.
More now in the last few years, definitely. But still,
Yeah.
in
Otherwise,
comparison to the other group, it's like tiny.
yeah.
It's just
Otherwise,
a
I shouldn't be
tiny group.
talking to you now. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's yeah. So if there is a proof, there is. So I shouldn't. I wouldn't speak with you otherwise.
You wouldn't speak with me if which?
Because no. So lately there are such tendency, as you said, like maybe because of the, I don't know, the COVID situation, and everything is now on Zoom and YouTube, and as I shared, I came across this radical non-duality lately, not a year or so.
Oh yeah, but it's heard when it's heard. Like the story,
True.
everyone's story
Yeah,
is
yeah,
perfectly,
true.
and it just resonates when it resonates, and that's it.
Mm.
All of that's a story too. COVID, all of that. It's just a story.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
but
just
it's
what's appearing to
beautiful.
happen. Yeah.
Okay,
Well,
I will stop.
yeah, it's lovely to
I will
speak to
stop
you.
recording. Yeah.